Hello, everybody. This is the Desert Cardinal coming to you from the desert southwest. Another real hot day today, um, and then it's supposed to have like 50-mile-an-hour winds, um, starting any time now. And we haven't had any rain lately, so we're in for a dust storm. So everybody that's got allergies is gonna have a real hard time today. Um, so today. Probably won't get through the whole topic today. Um, but one thing I do want to talk about um, over the next 2 or 3 days, maybe, is like working on and developing a crisis plan. Um, it as a mentally ill person, um, you're going to have times when things are just really smooth, really steady, and you're going to have times when things aren't going as well. And so we need to be prepared, and you may be single, you may be married, um, you may be a teenager, um, whatever your situation is, you need to custom make yourself a crisis plan for yourself. Um, and it's interesting. Of all the videos I've done so far, I think maybe I've done like maybe eight or nine, maybe, I'm not sure. But the one video that has the least views has been Stigma. And it's kind of interesting. I guess nobody really wants to watch a video about mental health stigma. But if you suffer from a mental illness, you deal with stigma sometimes every day, even from medical professionals, um, and state agencies. Like, if you're mentally ill, chances are, you receive some kind of benefit. And other people work, and so it's not just everybody, but some people that are mentally ill, get some kind of government assistance, and when you deal with a bureaucracy, it can be really difficult. And then if you're suffering from like an anxiety disorder, and you're trying to deal with, you know, a bureaucratic office on whatever it is that you need, it's very difficult to uh, be polite and be nice and be kind to the people on the other end of the phone when you're struggling with anxiety and you get put on hold for 30 minutes or whatever. And it becomes very difficult emotionally, um, to stay in control. And so I guess the point of that is that again, we're going to have good days and we're going to have bad days. And a crisis plan isn't for a bad day. It's for a really bad day. We're all going to have the bad days, and that's where the coping skills come in. Um, some of the ones we've talked about, like exercising, eating good, resting, having time for yourself, um, socializing more, um, mm, whatever hobby you may have, those kinds of things are good coping skills, um, to have. But, you know, at least for me, there have been times when I've gone into a crisis where either, the mania has kicked in and I've had delusional thoughts and doing just really bizarre things. And then, um, Uh, and then there's been times when, I'm so depressed, I haven't taken a shower in 3 or 4 days, and I, sleep all day, um, and we need to think about, the bad days and what makes a bad day, and it be okay. And then from there, you can start developing anyway your crisis plan. Um, for instance, um, if you should become suicidal, okay, and not just fleeting thoughts. All of us have the fleeting thoughts of suicide. Something will come in our mind and it'll go out. It's when you hold it in and you keep it in, and then you start planning and preparing. Okay, that's a huge warning sign that something needs to be done. And that's something that can go on your crisis plan. When I become suicidal, or if I have homicidal thoughts, then please call this crisis line and get help for me. And I worded that specifically as crisis line because, you know, unless you know for sure that the law enforcement in your area knows how to deal with people that are mentally ill, you don't want to call 911. Now if, well, we won't get into that, but, if you're in a crisis, a mental health crisis, okay, and say you're manic and you're having delusions and you're doing crazy stuff, um, I I urge you to, before any of that ever happens, to get in touch with a local agency that offers um, a crisis line and a crisis help. Um, I know in very populated areas, um, you will have uh, um, some sort of agency. Now, if you live in rural areas, then there's something else you can do. But we'll get to that. But if you live in a suburb or kind of inner city, or wherever, you know make sure that whoever is your caretaker, um, and if you don't have a caretaker, make sure that, like, the landlord of your apartment, or a neighbor, that somebody knows, hey, I need to call the crisis line for this person, because the people that run the crisis line, they will send people out to your house to help you, and they are trained by psychiatrists and psychologists and social workers on how to deal with people in a mental health crisis. Not every law enforcement agency is trained to help a person in a mental health crisis. And so a lot of times, somebody that's mentally ill ends up in jail when they really need to be in a treatment center, getting on some kind of medication. And so, you run a risk of kind of a negative situation becoming worse by getting law enforcement involved. Now, if you live with somebody and they're mentally ill and they take a knife and they're going to try to kill you, well, yeah, you're going to call 911. But if the person is having delusions and writing, like one time I wrote all these notes. Somebody told me I did this. I don't even remember doing it, but that somebody told me I wrote all these notes and taped them up in the bathroom, and for people to read about me or whatever. And um, you know, I'm not really hurting anybody. I was a danger to myself in the sense that I had been cutting, on my legs, and but what happened was they called law enforcement, and I was very fortunate that the law enforcement. Excuse me, that's my dog. Bruno, stop. Hey, Bruno, stop. Um, I was very. He just let himself out. My wonderful trained dog. Um, got over 10 minutes. I'm trying so hard to keep these videos under 10 freaking minutes. I can't do it. And now, of course, I've completely lost my train of thought. I was fortunate when law enforcement came because they treated me with dignity. They cared for me, and I was very fortunate. Um, it may not be that way in your area, and you can always call the law enforcement in your area and say, hey, are you guys trained to deal with people with a mental illness? I'm just wondering if you could say I have a friend instead of yourself, and I have a friend that could go into a crisis, and what are you guys trained to do? How are you guys trained to take care of people mentally ill? So that's a real important part of the crisis plan, is either finding and establishing a relationship with an area agency that has a crisis line that will take you if you are having a crisis, or finding out from your local law enforcement, um, and they may even have resources to direct you to. There is an organization. It's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It's called NAMI, NAMI, and they have great resources in communities all over the United States, and they can really help you um, uh, find out what the best thing for your area would be. And there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. They've been doing it for a long time. In fact, I think even on their national website, I think they have a thing you can download from them, like a template on developing your own crisis plan. Okay, maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll download it, and then we'll talk about it the next couple of videos. But so the only other thing I want to bring up real quick too, so the first part is like who to contact, what to do when you're in a crisis. Call 911 or call crisis line. The other piece that's very, very important is your support system. And, you need to be able to identify, a handful of people that you can talk to, maybe family, maybe not family, maybe friends, maybe coworkers, maybe, whoever, neighbor, um, and that's going to be another significant part of your crisis plan. So really, we just touched on two elements of the crisis plan. The one is, who do we call when we're in a crisis, and who is in our support system. And then what we'll talk about next time is what is a crisis for you? Because what may be a crisis for you may not be a crisis for me. The symptoms you may be having, I may never have those symptoms, or I may never have the symptoms that you're having. And so it's different. So how do we figure out, what's a crisis, what's not? What is it like when we're in a good place? And what is it like when we're in a bad place? And things like that need to go into, a crisis plan. So that way, you can look at it yourself and you can say, you know what, this is I'm not really in a crisis. I'm just kind of having a bad day. you know, or you know what? Yeah, I'm having thoughts of wanting to hurt other people. That's not very good. I need to get some extra help here. So that's what we'll talk about, for some of this week. And I hope you got something out of the video today. Uh, my email address is desertpanther66@gmail.com. That's desert, not Desert Panther. Uh, Back up. You can contact me by email at desertrainbow66@gmail.com. Okay, desertrainbow66@gmail.com. I'm working on a blog, webpage. As soon as I get that up, I'll post links to the material that we talk about each day. If there's downloadable material, I'll put it on the website. I'll give you the website address and have some good links on there to some good online resources for mental health. And as always, may you stay in the moment. May you be able to experience the moment, and may you be able to live at peace with yourself and at peace with others. Peace.